Very pleased to say we're joined once again on the programme by the Cabinet Office Minister, Michael Gove. Mr Gove, great to see you this morning. And of course, plenty to discuss as always. But I wonder if we might start with Priti Patel in the House of Commons yesterday and her announcement, the beginning of the announcement in terms of controls around the borders. What do you make of those social influencers who have jetted off to Dubai nominally for work purposes, sunning themselves on the beach? What should they have gone in the first place for these photo opportunities and promotional concerns?
No.
Not at all?
No.
It's just the reason I ask is it does feel rather similar to what Boris Johnson is planning to do today. He's getting on a plane or a train, he's travelling several hundred miles, all for the purposes of a photo opportunity. He's not meeting with the First Minister or anything like that. Why is the Prime Minister heading to Scotland today?
I think there's a world of difference between someone who's trying to market a product by going abroad and putting themselves and others at risk. There's a world of difference between that and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in the UK thanking and supporting those on the front line who are at the heart of our vaccination effort. The Prime Minister, as indeed Nicola Sturgeon acknowledged in the clip that you played, has a responsibility and a role to make sure that the vaccine rollout is proceeding appropriately, to thank those on the front line, NHS professionals and those in the British Army who are making sure that things work well. And it's also important that the Prime Minister hears from those on the front line what is going well and what needs to improve.
No one would doubt the fact, Mr Gove, as you correctly say, there is a world of difference between the cast of Love Island on the beaches of Dubai and the Prime Minister heading to Scotland. Not least, there's going to be fewer bikini photos, we certainly hope, for the state of all of our mental health. But it is a promotional opportunity nonetheless. And Nicola Sturgeon is not suggesting that it is improper for the Prime Minister to go to Scotland. What she's suggesting is that right now, with intensive care capacity where it is, with the new variant running rampant, in the words of the Health Secretary, that perhaps now might not be the most appropriate time for the Prime Minister to do what many of the Scottish diaspora, you and I included, can't do, and head home.
No, but the Prime Minister, like other ministers, is visiting those on the front line. The Prime Minister has visited those in our vaccine factories who are producing the vaccines that are doing so much to keep us safe. The Prime Minister has visited hospitals in order to thank and support those on the front line of the NHS. And of course, as you would know, Neil, part of the job of any politician during those visits, as well as supporting and thanking the people who are doing so much to keep us safe, is also to learn from the front line. Sometimes politicians are accused of operating from ivory towers. It is important that all of us learn from those on the ground if there are things that need to be improved in order to make sure that the operation of our services are more effective. And the other thing, of course, is that when the Prime Minister visits other parts of the United Kingdom, other political leaders don't criticise him. Indeed, there's a welcome for the Prime Minister and for other ministers who are rolling up their sleeves and getting in touch with those on the ground who are making such a difference.
Well, in terms of the Prime Minister heading to Scotland, clearly this is the beginning of an effort on the part of the government to try and reforge the chains of union, so to speak. How is the government going to attempt to do this, particularly given where the polling is on Scottish independence?
Well, we recognise that all the countries of the United Kingdom are stronger together when we work together. And part of that, as we know, is the rollout of the vaccine. It's the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine that has been produced in the United Kingdom and developed with the help of our scientists because the UK has been working together. And there have been people from Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and England involved in this effort, involved in supporting our NHS. And it's also the case that the strength of the UK Treasury, its broad shoulders, have been able to provide a level of financial support to those most in need across the United Kingdom that reinforces how important it is for us to stay together. And I think, at the moment, when we're prioritising the fight against the disease and also the need for economic recovery in due course, talking about, changing the constitution and so on is just a massive distraction.
I suppose the question is whether or not the Prime Minister himself is the best person to carry that message to the people of Scotland. I mean, just look at what happened just during Prime Minister's questions yesterday. He accused the Scottish Government of dithering and delay when it came to the vaccine rollout in Scotland. They haven't dithered, neither have they delayed. You know, he referred once again to the Scottish Nationalist Party, in full knowledge that their correct name is the Scottish National Party. And he mistook Christine Jardine, a Lib Dem MP, for a member of the SNP. I mean, he doesn't think we all look alike, does he?
No, the Prime Minister is someone who is committed heart and soul to supporting the people of Scotland and the people of the United Kingdom. And you know, on your point about the SNP, they are a nationalist party. There's a difference between nationalism.
Yes, but you know what he's doing there. You know what he's doing there, Mr Gove, and he's playing games. And I'm just saying the tone that he strikes when he does so is not necessarily conducive to telling people in Scotland to remain in the Union. I mean, they are the largest party in Scotland. They're going to dominate at the next set of elections. And the Prime Minister, you know, sticks a thumb at them every time he calls them the Scottish Nationalist Party. How do you think that plays north of Gretna Green?
Well, I think for those who are in the SNP, who are not a majority of voters in Scotland, let's be clear about that. For those in the SNP, of course, they want to, in Westminster, in the House of Commons, make political points, and it's important that those points are counted. But on a day-to-day basis, the UK government and the Scottish government are working hand in hand, as we are with the Northern Ireland Executive and the Welsh government. Just yesterday, I had 2 meetings with the First Minister of Scotland, cordial, business-like meetings in order to make sure that we were coordinating our approach towards the pandemic. And that's what happens every day and every week. We work together, and it's the cooperation between the UK government and the devolved administrations which gives people the best of both worlds. And that is something that, when they're making their political points, that the SNP want to break up. But on a day-to-day basis, that shared working, I think, is what the public want to see. They want to see politicians, whether it's in Holyrood or in Westminster or in Cardiff, cooperating on a practical basis to deal with the medical emergency that we all face.
We are, of course, just a couple of days away from the anniversary of Robert Burns' birth, so it's perhaps appropriate to quote, "Wad some power the gift he gives to see ourselves as others see us." Boris Johnson doesn't need divine intervention to know what the people of Scotland think about him. The polling shows that 79% of swing voters in Scotland don't want Boris Johnson to lead the country. So again, I ask the question, is Boris Johnson the best front man for the Union?
Yes, he's the Prime Minister of the whole United Kingdom. And it's important to recognise that the case for the UK, the case for us working together, is the most important point of any debate when we're looking at how we respond to this pandemic, when we're looking at how we respond to the economy. And it is the case that it is Boris's Prime Minister who has been at the heart of making sure that the UK is leading the world in terms of vaccine development and vaccine rollout. It's also the case that Boris as Prime Minister has put in place, working with Rishi Sunak, the economic support that is helping people in Scotland today, as it is helping people across the United Kingdom.
Yep.
And the important thing, I think, is to look at the day-to-day reality of the combined strength that the United Kingdom brings to meeting all of these challenges.
Sure. On the topic of vaccines, can we discuss the situation as regards your colleague, Sir Desmond Swayne? What message is Sir Desmond sending when he urges anti-vaccination campaigners to keep going with their fight against government restrictions? He told them that NHS capacity figures were being manipulated to exaggerate the scale of coronavirus. He even said that the government was attempting to implement social control with its masks policy. Might you bring your skills of your powers, your considerable powers of persuasion to bear on Sir Desmond and tell him to shut up right now?
Sir Desmond is wrong. I've worked with Sir Desmond. I have great affection for him, but I'm afraid here he's completely out of order.
Is there not, though, a case, given what we saw in Wrexham, where the fit and fill takes place for the AstraZeneca vaccine? We saw someone sent an inert device, but a device to the factory there, presumably from the anti-vaccine community. Given that, given the importance of the vaccine campaign, is it not possible, is it not perfectly expectable that Sir Desmond should have the whip removed?
Well, I'd say two things. The first thing is let's separate what happened in the factory. That's going to be investigated appropriately. But in the case of what Sir Desmond said, I would hope that he would issue a full and complete retraction and apology for what he said. It's unacceptable.
Absent that, he should lose the whip then?
Well, I think that the first thing that should happen is that Sir Desmond should apologise, and then, of course, consideration can be given to any other steps that might be taken. But I think it's important that Sir Desmond has a chance to retract, withdraw, and say sorry for these comments, which, as I say,
yeah, I mean, but I'll repeat, perhaps the gravest charge against him is the fact that he suggests that capacity figures within the health service are being manipulated. He is accusing the chief medical officer, the chief scientific advisor, the legions of people who work at the Cabinet Office and elsewhere in Whitehall at the moment, the people who put this data together. He's accusing them of lying.
Well, he's wrong, and he should say sorry.
Well, and again, but I will go back to it, but absent that apology, absent the full retraction, Sir Desmond has no place in the Conservative Party, presumably.
I think it's for Sir Desmond to make that apology, to retract and to withdraw his words. And I'm sure he will reflect on that mistake. And I'm sure that he will be very clear that it was a serious mistake and an apology will be forthcoming.
And Mr Gove, I know we have to let you go in a moment, but I just want to ask you again on the borders. Why have we not introduced a blanket rule? Looking at the 30 countries on the hot list, one of them not in it is Mexico, currently running fourth in the world for total deaths, 17,000 new cases yesterday, the best part of 2,000 deaths. It rather makes a mockery of the red list if a country like Mexico is not on it.
This morning, we'll be reviewing not just which countries should be subject to these new quarantine measures, but also, as you know, there are some exemptions for certain professions. We'll be reviewing those exemptions because we want to have as tight a policy as possible.